Hello, welcome. Thanks. Yeah, you should now be a speaker.
GM. I believe
Good morning.
Indefatigable is going to be joined. Hey, speak of the devil. How you doing, Robbie? Oh, he's not a speaker yet. I'm doing
Okay,
good. How are you doing, our host?
awesome. Morning, GM. Thanks, guys, for joining. We've got Zcash Nigeria here. Hey, how's it going, Chidi? Um, so I'm going to leave it open for a couple more minutes. Wait for some people to filter in. Hey, Lower. All right. Well, I am hoping to be quite prompt today. I know you guys are busy, so I won't take up any more of your time than than we can. Um, so thanks. We've got Indefatigable and we've got Dylan with us. I think I've got that right. Welcome, guys. Um, they are from PageDAO, and perhaps we can get into some introductions in a bit. To kick things off, I'm Squirrel. I'm from Zechub. Zechub is a DAO, and we provide open source educational material. We're a platform where community members can work together on creating and promoting content that supports the Zcash ecosystem. And we also create some content that supports the privacy enhancing technology ecosystem as well. So, things like Secret Network or Penumbra or Namada. We're also involved with projects like those, creating like tutorials and other free material on a not-for-profit basis. Um, and yeah, I guess could we pass it over to Indefatigable to begin with? Just a quick introduction.
Hi, Indefatigable, and you've pronounced it so perfectly. It's amazing. I'm lead dev with PageDAO, and I've been there since the inception of the DAO. So excited to work on privacy preserving and censorship resistant publishing tools. Um, the DAO and I myself have had a lot of experience in the challenges around information and dissemination, and we wanted to make open source tools that anyone could use to upend the publishing industry. So we've had a lot of fun working in that space, and we're so happy to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And yeah, not to get off topic too quickly, but um, I might have mentioned this in the Discord channel. But yeah, Indefatigable it's a ship in there's a book called Hornblower. I think it's written by C.S. Forrester, and it's a really, really good book and TV series. So if you haven't watched it, please check it out. And Dylan, can we get an intro?
Hey, of course. I'm always happy to talk about myself. Yeah, my name is T. Dylan Daniel, and basically I study philosophy and I do a lot of science stuff. And I got pulled into Web3 in about, I don't know, you could call it late 2019, early 2020. Really started thinking hard about publishing. Published the first book on Ethereum in 2021, back in about January of that year. And really, things have just been kind of one directional progress from there. We're building a new internet. I think the first, one of the first few steps that we should be taking is to update our publishing industry. and get that using all these new awesome rails to fix all the monetization and access problems that riders face these days. So it's been a blast working with Robbie, and it's been a blast working on PageDAO for these past 3 years.
Fantastic, thank you. Just very quickly, I guess I'd like to commend what you guys are doing. I think so of course, we Zechub creates content. The reason I kind of reached out to you guys because I thought our two projects were very similar. And the more I kind of read into what you guys are doing, I quickly found out that our projects are actually fairly different. So we create, educational material and written content around on-chain technologies, right? Blockchain stuff, privacy technologies, whatever. But what you guys are actually doing is you've created a platform itself using Secret Network to allow other people to host their own material. And I kind of feel that I don't know, you guys have gone if this was a stack or if this was a layer, you guys are like on the layer below what Zechub is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess I could see that.
It's really intriguing to think about it in terms of layers because as a tool and digital platform cooperative, which is what we've kind of been targeting as a model, it means that everyone is potentially a member of PageDAO. And so they have full rights to make proposals and help our direction. And basically, the more people that become members of the DAO, the more perspectives we're able to incorporate into our strategies and tooling. And with the idea that we're creating open tools. So even where we are now is a result of authors being like, can I own my own contract? Can I have private work that only owners can see? Can I do this? And we're like, 50 authors asked for that. These publishers, they're publishing magazines. They want to be able to organize work together under a unit, but everybody shouldn't have to go through all the hassle of subscribing to 20 different services to put together a suite that each organization has to individually pay for. And especially for small or budding organizations, often with like the coolest ideas, they have to start from scratch. And without an IT solutions provider or major funding, that puts so many on-chain things out of reach. And so one of our first published poems on our open README books collection on Polygon was a Nigerian poet who I'd been following for a long time. He's a poet and model. And I was like, yes, this is what I want to see. We had a group of women engineering students in India publish a magazine that they collaboratively created together. And I was just like, yeah, this is exactly what I want to see. Like people coming together, doing things that they couldn't have done before.
That's fantastic. It's bringing power. It's delivering on the Web3 promise. Bringing ownership back to individuals versus centralized central authorities or what have you. So you mentioned a DAO. Would you mind going into a bit more detail on like the kind of governance structure that your DAO has? You mentioned like anyone can become a DAO member.
Yeah, I mean, Dylan's kind of our main architect on governance, and we've refined the model over the years, and we're still constantly updating it. We spent 2 months or 3 months actually looking at collectively holocratic models. It's a very fancy word for saying nested circles that are autonomous and independent. So there's the main DAO, PageDAO, and then we have circles underneath it that have their own accountabilities and roles, and they may have circles under them. And so we have like community and publishing, and we have our research and development sub DAOs, and we have our ecosystem things for partnerships and so forth. And so people can be incentivized within their own sub DAOs or their own circles to be able to do things that are benefit from the overall coordination. It's a model that's forming in real time, so it's really kind of cool and exciting. And then Dylan put out a proposal recently for stages of increasingly user-driven funding for sub DAOs or through staking rewards. It's a crazy complex system, but really simple from a user perspective. But that allows user interest to directly benefit the sub DAOs and the members. It's really kind of cool. We're on Osmosis using the DAO platform, and they're hopefully launching the secret version of the DAO stack, which allows for like anonymized voting and all these really cool properties that you get with decentralized confidential computing. But yeah, our governance, we had our first cool governance attack earlier, like 2 months ago. I was like, yay, the DAO rallied to the rescue. Yeah, I was like, you're not important until someone tries to hack you, I think.
Very true. Very true. So what exactly happened? I'm kind of curious.
Dylan, do you remember doing the postmortem on that?
Yes.
Or has it been fixed? Yes, please.
Yeah. So essentially what happened was that there was a lot of Page in the liquidity pool, and there was less Page that was staked into governance. And so some very clever attacker realized that what they could do is, for a fairly small amount of money, I think it was like $2,500 or something, they bought 1 million Page tokens. And pretty much they wanted to take the 10 million Page tokens that we have locked in the community treasury pool, and they wanted to send those tokens to themselves. And so what we had to do was muster more than 1 million Page of voting power, which, it took several of us to team up and vote that down. And we had to do this within 24 hours. So there was kind of like a speedy cutoff there, and yeah, it really was fairly dramatic. I'm happy that we had the good result that we did. We just voted the proposal down. The attackers sold their tokens, and presumably will never be heard from again. But I mean, wow, it was really something
Nice.
to see that somebody was after it.
And to know that voting works. This is exactly the point of a DAO, and this is something that I believe Zechub can learn from. So we have a treasury. So we don't have a token ourselves, but we do have a treasury, and it's managed by voting on DAO. And so I think I have been kind of mulling over to what degree do we need a cohesive like membership model, I guess I could say. A different way of describing it would be, I kind of want, it would be good to have all DAO members as being individuals, they're out doing their own thing, and when it comes time to vote on a proposal, they make up their own mind and it happens. But, as has been shown by your recent hack, there kind of does need to be a tight-knit community so that, decisions can be quickly made. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So what was interesting, not to harp too much on governance, but when I think about PageDAO as a technological offering, digital platform, I can't separate it from the way that governance is intertwined with it, nor can I separate it from the content and the outreach that we do to creators as well. So it's kind of like this enmeshed, faceted system. But thinking back to last August, we did a consulting session for Circle's UBI tokens that I had laying around. We had this awesome platform co-ops based in Berlin did a 3-day working session with us on structure and what we realized is that we needed a concrete core team who had defined roles and would agree to show up no matter what. And that was a big turning point for the DAO during the really, really bad bear a year ago. And so what that core team enabled us to do was kind of like lay out a strategy, do things that, you know, a general disinterested, because they're not getting any benefit membership was, members were just sitting on their thing. And then we were able to kind of spread messaging out from that core team, consolidate our tokens, do the management that was necessary to move our governance over to Osmosis and DAO. And we did a lot of this kind of like housekeeping work as a core team. And even now we're looking at how we expand the core team and do those kinds of things. But it's really exciting to think that, you know, a little bit of structure, understanding that it's about what works, and keeping an eye towards decentralization is critical.
Good point. Yeah. So governance nerding out on governance. Right. So can we talk a bit more about, by the way, it was pretty shocking that you mentioned a Circle UBI token. So I don't know. I'm kind of interested and quite afraid at the same time. Yeah, can we talk a bit more about your app? So for the listeners in the space, PageDAO, I think, is soon to release like an application built on top of Secret Network. Could you explain how it will work? I actually watched a recent tutorial that you posted on YouTube. Would you mind, just laying out kind of what it is and how it works?
Sure. I'm sorry I'm doing all the talking, Dylan. We spent lots of the fall last year, November and December, talking to our authors and gathering requirements, figuring out what they wanted, and we came up with really cool user flows, our sample user. We did all this really cool Figma work. And so by January, we had a pretty solid idea of what we wanted to build. And at the heart of it was we wanted to have privacy by default, both on book transactions. So no one should know that I sent my mom a greeting card unless my mom wants to tell the world that I sent her a greeting card. And why shouldn't we be able to do this in Web3? And then also my collection. If I'm, you know, studying anarchism, do I want to be on a watch list, right? Like, I don't know, like where's my freedom, you know, like where's my intellectual freedom? When we have a rise in autocratic, you know, and downright fascist state actions across the country. And it's weird to talk about it so openly, right? It's like, shh, don't talk about this. But it's a fact that writers around the world are impacted by hard censorship, literally being imprisoned for writing, censored for writing, and soft censorship, the stuff you don't write because you don't feel safe writing.
Right.
And so we wanted to make sure that privacy was first. And so we looked at Secret Network. We filled out an application for a grant from Secret Labs, and we won it. I was like, yay, our first builder grant, other than Polygon a couple of years ago. And so we had really good concrete plans. We attended a hackathon, joined in 2 hackathons at ETH Denver, and finally came up with like the bare bones rudimentary thing. So the first really cool thing is that the basic thing is you upload a PDF. The PDF gets encrypted and stored on IPFS. The encryption key, however, is stored inside the trusted execution environment on Secret Network. All of this code that does this is open source, and we partnered with other grantees from Secret Network who provided the Secret Network contracts that do the storing, which is really cool because I'm not a really good Rust and CosmWasm developer. And so using this stack kind of podged together, we had the bare bones. We can store a document. It can live forever on chain and only be opened by the person it's supposed to be opened. But then
Very quickly, I'm going to interject. Where is the content stored? So we say it's on chain, because I know with Secret Network NFTs, or there is an example of a secret network NFT that I saw in which the content was stored on IPFS. Is that the same in this case?
We're
Is it
using
encrypted?
we're using a totally different model from secret NFTs.
Right.
And it's exactly what you said. The content is encrypted using a shared key between our secret network contract that it knows the private key of, and a generated one on the time of upload. And so that key gets stored in the secret network contract and has rules about how that key can be accessed. The content gets encrypted and stored on IPFS. So anyone can go to the IPFS hash and see the encrypted content.
Good luck.
But it won't do them much good, right?
Yeah.
And it's using AES Civ for the encryption.
Nice.
So it's that part is really secure, but that's not all that needs to happen. So for example, the second major feature that we were looking at was decoupling the NFT idea of what a literary item is from what a end user in Web 2 thinks a literary item is. So we have NFTs, they live on contracts that live on chains. You have to have a wallet for a specific chain. If you're on Polygon versus Ethereum versus Flow versus Cosmos and all the, right? It's and in order to transact on any of those chains, I have to have funded wallets, right? Or my transactions have to be funded. So what we decided was we were going to make the system as simple to use as if I was going on Amazon and buying a book and wanted to view it. And that took a layer of wallet management, multi-wallet management, and smart contract wallets. So from the end user's perspective, I could log in with a Google account or social account or email and have access to the full array of Web3. I don't care what chain a book or comic book or poem is on. I don't care where it's stored. I just want to buy this book now. And so that took a lot of work, and we'll be developing that. So those are the two main tenets. Private work. We're still working on full privacy for transactions in a multi-chain environment, but I'm excited to get that out in next year's roadmap. But the fundamental alpha release is set to launch, soft launch, like next week, like Monday. It's happening. It's been a long road. Yeah.
Congrats. I can't wait. Yeah, this is really exciting stuff. For the listeners, I would just like to point out in the demo that you created, it had a Twitter login, and you just mentioned like a Google account login. This is a huge step forward, even like across all projects that I've seen at the moment. Having like a Twitter login or a Google account login is pretty fantastic. So we actually have a publishing or social platform within the Zcash community itself. You may have seen some links floating around. It's called Free to Z, and I don't know if they still support Twitter logins, but yeah, they don't host any data on chain. It's kind of centrally hosted, but they have private encrypted video calls, and you can pay content creators in Zcash. And just like you said, with your platform, you can kind of decide who gets to view the content. Privacy is not entirely about hiding things. We like to think of privacy as being consent, and so you decide who gets to view the data. So I'd actually like to kind of jump over to a slightly different topic. Why should PageDAO exist? Why the app should exist? Why should we be putting content on chain? So Dylan is like, I think, a scientist. He's written a book on Ethereum. And so Dylan, maybe do you know a bit of information about like the scientific publication research journal space at the moment in Web 2 and how PageDAO might be able to improve on this model?
Certainly. Yeah, so I got my start in formal science back in 2018. I was director of R&D at a biotech startup, and over the course of about 18 months there, I read about 5,000 articles, and some of these articles were really easy to find. Some of them were hidden behind paywalls, and some were really difficult to find. So there was a lot of variety in terms of where the literature is physically at and what you have to do to get it in science. There are, obviously many innovators working on this. We got DOI, which is a digital object identifier, and other technologies that make it less expensive and less difficult to find these things. But really and truly, the thing is that it's fragmented. It's scattered all over the place. And so when I got into Web3, I saw the potential to build kind of like an aggregate layer that could sort of start indexing all this stuff. And then you would just need to be able to go to the place on chain where it was, and you'd be able to find everything. And so this is kind of a basic idea that we've been looking at. We haven't actually built anything that directly gears towards science yet, but we're really thinking hard about it as we design our, indexing stuff and start thinking about, just exactly what the right way is to start, doing things to, for example, allow grant-funded researchers to publish someplace where, maybe they could make some money from their work. A lot of times these articles go for like $30 a piece, and the researchers that write them don't see a dime. So now I'm working on a PhD. I study experimental psychology and neuroscience at Texas Tech University. And there are some things still, even with my powerful university logins and so on, that I don't have access to directly unless I want to pay. And then there's also the chance that if I write something that a lot of people read and it's really successful, that this will go somewhere that it costs $30 to read, and that won't help me financially at all.
Right, exactly. Even government-funded research somehow ends up behind a paywall. Like the public, it comes out of your taxes, and you need to pay again to read it. It's quite shocking. Yeah, I'd just like to quote, there was a tweet that came into the Zcash Global Discord, I think yesterday. The most powerful thing about donations as a funding model is that individuals and teams receiving them remain independent. So yeah, I think PageDAO is going to play a big part in the coming months and years. I'd really like to see some kind of initiative towards like scientific research articles and journals and stuff.
That reminds me of like the second part of your question, which is like why PageDAO, why a DAO? And I worked at a literary free expression nonprofit for 6 years, and one thing I noticed was all the ways that around the world free expression is under threat in various and sundry ways. And what happens when you have a corporation that is incorporated according to laws in a place and its assets own all of the technology, is that corporation can be shut down, the funds can be stopped and dried up, and in the world of digital storage, that means that you could lose access to those pins, hosts, etc. And this is the digital reality that we live in. You need the broadest, most open base of operations in order to ensure digital longevity. And I don't think we could function in the long term unless we were a DAO, unless we weren't beholden to, a group of, that we're not beholden to like a group of 5 VCs who are big corporations who, like, when it becomes disadvantageous to support us, will yank their funding and or plummet all of our resources, right? And so that independence is absolutely critical. Like you can't, this is part of that interconnection I was talking about before, where you can't have information security and have concentrated power. And so I'm excited. It's been so wobbly as a DAO. We've learned so much about conflict resolution and communication and like best practices for culture within the DAO, with all of our diverse experience coming together. And the resilience that we've built is part of the offering that we have, understanding people from around the world with different perspectives on what content is important, and having those discussions out in the open has been really valuable. And I think that's what's going to preserve the work forever for everyone.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, like you mentioned, having a good amount of diversity within the DAO strengthens it. I've often thought that because our DAO is composed mostly of Zcash community members, I've often thought that maybe we should put a rule in where we don't take any more Zcash community members. We only want people from outside with a different view on things. So maybe they would have different priorities and things that we would be completely blind to as being in just within the Zcash community. And that's actually part of the reason why we do calls like this, is to reach out to different Cosmos ecosystem projects, even Avalanche projects, and yeah, just kind of learn more. Right, so yesterday, or was it the day before yesterday, a woman in the UK was arrested for saying incorrect information. So I'm quoting here. She was arrested for saying incorrect information on Twitter or on Facebook or something. And I think it's a sign of the direction that kind of government entities are taking towards digital freedoms. There's a shift towards kind of stricter, more authoritarian controls over what people say, and having projects which prioritize on-chain data storage is a good way to preserve those freedoms. It's even more great that you're introducing privacy by default, and to that end, Zcash is the community is right along there with you. When people are paid on your app, do they get to choose which token they receive, or is it the token that's paid that's automatically received? How does it work?
In the alpha right now, we're using USDC for pure simplicity's sake.
Yeah.
And also, people aren't paid technically on our app. When a user creates an asset using our app, literary item on any chain, they own the contract. So they can manage the contract. If PageDAO went away, they still have the on-chain ownership rights to the contract, and they can set or manage that using tools. We're using Third Web's open contract stack based on Open Zeppelin standards. And so that was also another requirement that users were like, I want to own my own contracts. And that allows people to set their own royalties. It allows them to configure it on marketplaces. It gives them a lot of control if they're interested in going under the hood. Above the hood, we're using USDC for kind of simplicity. For our goal is to have seamlessly integrated credit card processing. So not only can a Web2 user sign in and create with just a social login, but we want people to be able to just go in and like Google Pay, Apple Pay, get a book, view the book, read the book, share the book with someone. And so, yeah, it's up to the user in the long term what token they'd like to receive. The stack that we're using right now will swap tokens to match the end currency based on what a user have. Third Web has a really cool transaction button React API that does that under the hood. And yeah, that probably answers.
Thank you.
that
Yeah.
question.
So this might actually be kind of shocking to the Zcashers in the space. Kind of payments with USDC and credit cards and stuff. I guess we're like so tunnel visioned towards like maintaining people's freedom um, that we forget that, guys, there's actually some normal payment methods that people use every day. And, if they're trying to sell a magazine or a book or a poem, it's probably more likely that that they're going to choose these payment methods. But if you're scared that you're going to be arrested for saying the wrong thing or having the wrong point of view, you should consider very intensely the type of payment that you receive. So ideally, you want something that's decentralized. You'd probably want something that's private, and something that hides the sender, the recipient, and the amount. And to that end, I think Secret Network is fairly good. I think really what Secret Network excels at is, allowing people to create these private applications, or like a platform where applications can be privately executed. I should correct myself. But I think on Secret Network, am I correct by saying the addresses are still known? Is that right?
So addresses are public, and on Secret Network, they have private versions of tokens where the balances aren't revealed unless you have a viewing key.
Mm-hmm.
So there's varying levels of privacy on Secret Network. The beauty of it is, let's say I had to report to like a government agency what my transactions were and they were private, I could create a viewing key and allow that insight into my transactions. Transactions aren't shielded, however,
Yeah.
but they can be encrypted. So like no one knows what I did on Secret Network. I'm not a Secret Network complete expert. I've been on a steep learning curve for the last 6 months.
Yeah.
But but there are advantages to having the trusted execution environment that aren't available on other platforms. And so there's no state floating around that someone could snoop.
Mm-hmm.
No validator can tell what's happening inside my contract, so it decreases the maliciousness potential.
I think I saw a tweet, maybe even within the past 24 hours, there's like a critical is it CVE, like announcement, and someone was like, this TEEs are still safe, don't worry. But that is something to consider, part of the trust assumptions when you're building your thing, that, you kind of have to trust that the hardware is safe. Versus zero knowledge, where it can kind of be audited, and it's fairly safe, right? But yeah, these are different platforms, different projects, and they each have their own advantages, like you said.
I have an unplanned question.
Yeah.
For you to throw out. One of the things we're looking at is not just how do users consume content, but how do machines and other software consume content with rights and privileges. So a lot of writers are very, very concerned with the rise in AI and, the ability for large language models to produce work that's based on their work and looks like and
Right.
sounds like their work. And yet many people want to be able to monetize or license AI to be used with their software. So for example, you want to make AI agents based on your characters. What if you could allow for that right and you get paid from that income stream? So it's not just, even among the most avant-garde writers, there's sort of a understanding of the power of AI, but the tools aren't really there. Would you see a sort of zero knowledge proof functionality enabling tool for controlling access to certain parts of knowledge about work.
About work that's done. Okay, so do you mean, first of all, I'd just like to point out that platform that I mentioned, the Zcash community kind of social platform, Facebook alternative or whatever, Free to Z does have like something where you can create an AI character, and it also has GPT-4, which you can pay for privately with Zcash and with an anonymous account, and you know your data isn't going to be harvested by brokers or whatever. Just adding that in there. To your question, I don't see any reason why a circuit couldn't be created that kind of validates. In fact, I think it may already exist. I'll try and find it later and DM you. But yeah, I don't see why a circuit couldn't be created that that confirms that an AI or your specific AI created this information, and you could check the proof that it was this person that used this AI to create the content. In fact, so zero knowledge proofs. So some people think that, you know, in crypto, there's this kind of thing like we're a ZK project, and all they do is they do scalability, right? So, you know, maybe it's ZK sync, and they're just an ETH layer 2 that is very scalable. ZK zero knowledge. Some people think that it means privacy. Where was I going with this? I've lost my train of thought. But yeah, zero knowledge. So it can be used for private payments. It can be used for scalability. You can verify the correctness of certain things. Some applications that are beginning to come out now are things like how nowadays, like, you can't really verify if a photo is true or not, right? Like with the Trump assassination attempt, were the Secret Service agents, were they angry in the picture, or were they smiling in the picture, right? Like that, I've seen all kinds of conspiracy theories online. So zero knowledge proofs actually provide a way for specifically images. I can share the link with you later, but like, I think what magazine outlets like Reuters or the Daily Telegraph or the Guardian or whatever, in the camera you could have with the picture you could generate the proof, and people, when they're reading the article, they can themselves validate the information that, like, this picture was taken from this specific camera on this date. They can verify it on their own. Sorry for rambling.
Yes.
But yeah.
No. You've landed on exactly what we're looking at. So we've partnered with a really cool Web3 writing platform called T2 that initiated their own reading tracking mechanism that distributes time points on their platform. It's really cool. T2.world. Check it out. They're running contests. They have an ongoing contest for Bonsai. Its deadline is the 15th of August. The other cool thing about PageDAO is we hear about all these really cool writing contests and share them with our users. So like people are writing and earning in Web3, which is cool. But one of the interesting things is I was like, how do I track writers? Let's say writers wrote on our platform. So I can throw an editor, smash it in a web page, track every single keystroke. But I don't want to store every single keystroke. I want to store the proof that the writer on this date. And let's say I did eye tracking or screen grabs or scroll tracking or any of this sort of thing. How does a user know that their personal image or their data, or if they're holding their phone, their gyroscope information, how do they know that that information is not being released to other people and that it's their own to have? And here's the other bit is that if I knew after I read a book, the part that I spent the most time on, where I was excited, and could automatically get redirected back to those parts after I've read it. I don't have to track any of that information, but because it's being stored in such a way that there's a proof of that. And what if I'm the writer and I got the aggregate proof information that's anonymized of all of my readers, what parts they loved without them even knowing it? Like, what kind of value would that have for an author, for a publisher, for the world? And so I think simultaneously incorporating zero knowledge approaches is really, really, really important to how we deal with sensitive user information that's very close to the source, linked to the client, but not revealing that deep personal information about the person, but also giving an individual access to their own insights of their own behavior, which I think is the ultimate rewarding thing. Yeah,
that's brilliant. So I'm kind of imagining people with their own AIs, and it's giving them insights into their own behavior, and it's helping them, and that's really good. And that's why we love Brave. So Brave browser actually does this. They have a zero knowledge way of knowing which, like, it tracks which websites you're visiting, and uses zero knowledge, and all it sends back to Brave is, I think, just like categories of things that you're interested in, without actually sharing the websites themselves. So Brave is an example of this kind of thing, and yeah, I'd invite you to check out the Brave protocol.
Interestingly, one of the founders of Brave was a member of the LibraNet group that birthed PageDAO. It's a long story. Wow. Dylan will get all into it, but was an early advisor and helped us out a lot with imagining everything that we're building.
Whoa! Well, of course. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to send a shout out to Alex if he ever listens to this.
Nice. Well, Zcash is going to be integrated. Shielded Zcash is going to be integrated with Brave browser in the next month and a half, thereabouts. So if you want to make private payments online, then yeah, give it a go. So I guess we've kind of covered almost everything that I'd written down. Does anyone in the chat have questions for any of our panelists at the moment? Raise your hand or request to speak, and I'll add you. Okay, I can't quite see, but we've been going for nearly an hour. Thanks, guys, for spending your afternoon or morning on the call. It's been really insightful to learn about your project, and I think we're going to kind of take away and discuss things which we talked about. You know, like the attack that happened. Oh, someone requested. Yes, welcome, Hadabola. How's it going? We might have lost him. Okay, well, I guess we'll end the call there. Thanks for joining. Oh, he's requested again. Thanks for joining, guys. I'll see you guys in the PageDAO Discord server. So I actually included the link. If you go onto the Zechub Twitter and you scroll down a bit, you're going to see the link for PageDAO. They've been discussing some really interesting things. So please do join their server and follow them as well. So take care, everyone. Have a good weekend. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Cheers. Bye.